episode is brought to you by Cashflow Collective, helping Aussie business owners bring clarity, consistency, and confidence to their business finances. With expert guidance and a supportive community behind you, you don't have to figure it all out alone. Head to the show notes to find out more. The information shared in this podcast is general in nature and is intended for educational purposes only. It does not take into account your personal circumstances and should not be relied upon as financial or tax advice. For advice specific to your situation, please speak with a qualified professional. Welcome to Aussie Bookkeeping Basics, the podcast that helps Australian small business owners understand their numbers without the jargon. Hi, and welcome to Aussie Bookkeeping Basics. So today we're going to talk about the most common bookkeeping mistakes that I see. Again, this is a shame-free zone, a jargon-free zone. This is a safe place. And I want you to know that these are so common. You probably wouldn't be able to guess how common they are. But if you bumped into another business owner at a cafe or at the servo or somewhere else, I am absolutely sure that they have encountered themselves at least one, if not all three of these. So this is super common. So please, this is not a personal failure. It's all fixable. It's just some things that I see and some things I want to do to be able to help you get out of this situation too. So, number one, avoiding it. The classic head in the sand type strategy is not a strategy, right? This is so big, right? Because no one other than bookkeepers, and even then, that's a whole separate thing, but no one gets into business. No one wakes up one morning and says, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to do plumbing. And I'm doing it because I want to do the business bookkeeping. Heck no. No one says that, right? They get into plumbing because they found that they have a natural, skill in that area. They get into marketing because they've discovered that they really enjoy that. They sell crochet bunnies because, heck, they love crochet, and those bunnies, oh gosh, they're so cute, right? None of those people are actually getting into business to do their business bookkeeping, right? So it is unfortunately one of the hats that us as small business owners have to wear, at least for a little while, in your business. And whether you do that in a sensible way and in a supported way, I guess is more the point, or if you do it just completely solo, which to me seems just really stressful, it's totally doable. But avoiding the issue and putting your head in the sand, so common. People, I don't know, we all know that by putting something off, it's not actually solving the issue. It's not going to go away, right? It only gets worse, not going to get better. So stop avoiding it, right? Second thing, a really common bookkeeping mistakes I see is guessing categorisation. Having a stab in the dark, right? It's the old close my eyes, wiggle my finger around in a circle and just count to 3 and stop. And whatever I put my finger on, that's where it goes, right? No, that's not gonna cut it either. The good news about guessing categories, particularly in terms of expenses, the expense category in some ways really doesn't matter. Now, that might sound sacrilegious as a bookkeeper. However, I will explain why. As long as it's entered correctly, the category doesn't matter so much. If it's entered correctly with the correct amount of GST, if you've paid GST on it and you're GST registered, as long as it's got the right amount, the right date, and you've got evidence to back up that expense, the world is not going to implode because you put it in the wrong category, okay? However, what the category, particularly in expenses, the more specific you can get, the more information you're going to get out of your finances, right? So, for example, a common one is an expense category called other or general or miscellaneous, right? Seen all of those iterations in my time. People, if in doubt, shove it in there, okay? And that's fine, right? For the random thing that you probably never need to go back to that supplier again, right? Yeah, that's fine. For once-offs, for things that aren't regular. However, if you have your software subscription for your accounting software or your practice management software, if you have that going into general or other or miscellaneous or office expenses, right? That's probably not going to help you get some information out of your numbers. Because what you're going to end up with is a whole stack of things in this other account, which is not going to tell you squat, to be quite frank. It's not going to give you any information. And it doesn't actually cost you, like none of the, software, the accounting softwares will actually charge you for having more expense categories, right? So you can have more or less as many as you want. I've never come across a limitation in terms of expense categories. I have, however, come across many times where people have had not enough expense categories. So another really common one is subscriptions, as I was saying. That is also a different thing between software subscriptions and subscriptions to, say, professional magazines or, yearly things that come out. So some things I've seen put in subscriptions probably don't belong there either. Recommend having, for example, a different expense account for your industry certification or registration and those payments, right? So if you have to pay to be registered, or you do pay to be registered, that should have a category in and of itself, because from year to year, you want to be able to see what it has cost you to be still registered, right? That's a piece of information you really do want to track. Another thing I see regularly lumped together is things like website expenses and emails, right? So if you've got your own domain, like, for example, mine is www.aussiebookkeepingbasics.com.au, right? So I pay to actually keep that domain, and I pay I use the same company, the same business to register that domain and host the domain, as well as my professional email hosting. So my Deb at aussiebookkeepingbasics.com.au email address. That one is registered with the same company. Just makes it so much easier, cost effective. Shout out to Kinetics and Ipswich for amazing people. But even though they're with the same company, it's actually two different services they're providing for you. So I would actually encourage you to, if you're lumping both your website and your email stuff together, ask yourself, do I really want to know like how much it's costing me for email hosting and how much it's costing me for website hosting? And is that something I want to be able to track over time, right? So it's all about what information you are wanting to get out of your financial books. So guessing categories, shoving it all into an other or miscellaneous or general office expenses, not a great thing. Again, well, it's not going to implode, right, with any of these things. However, you're not going to get the information from your financials that you're going to probably want to get later down the track, right? Okay, we're up to number 3 of my 3 most common bookkeeping mistakes. The first one was avoiding the bookkeeping, your head in the sand. Second one was guessing categories or just lumping them all together. And the third thing is not reviewing them, right? So like just entering them and then leaving them there to like fester and die. Which sounds really awful, but you're not doing anything with them, right? You're just entering them and you're not even reviewing them. You're not seeing that, comparing year on year and that kind of stuff. Again, these 3 are super duper common. They are not personal failures. They are not saying you're doing anything like inherently wrong. No one's going to come and chase after you if you're doing these things wrong, except maybe if you're doing the first one for too long. If you're avoiding your bookkeeping forever and ever, someone may have something to say about that. However, it's also fixable, right? It's all the kinds of things where if you just have somewhere safe or someone safe to ask the question of, it's so fixable, so easily able to be overcome. No shame at all, right? We have all been there. If you recognized yourself in any of these, you are not behind. You're not silly. You're not behind. You're just at the point where a bit of guidance can make a really big difference. Speaking of guidance, have you heard about my Cashflow Collective? It could be exactly what you need to help you have a clearer understanding of your business finances, the accountability to stay consistent with your bookkeeping, and ongoing support and guidance from an experienced BAS agent. I'd love to welcome you. Find out more at the link in the description of this episode, and I'll be right here for the next episode of Aussie Bookkeeping Basics. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. If you'd like to keep learning together, please hit follow and stay connected through the Aussie Bookkeeping Basics podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.